RotoGrinders! Welcome to RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderHD, BlenderHD. You're going to follow me on Twitter. And it's Wednesday, September 27th. That means we'll be looking a preview of the NFL Week 4 main slate. Talking a little bit Ryder Cup, right? If golf is on, you know who is up, who should be up early in the morning, right? Golf, NOTO. Aren't typically, like, I can never get into golf because I'm not a morning person.
Yeah.
Is golf traditionally people wake up at like 4, 5 in the morning and play? Is there no like afternoon people of like, oh, kind of roll out of bed and go to the golf course at 2 in the afternoon?
No, you certainly can, especially, in the fall when it's not so hot out there. But yeah, most golfers are morning people, want to get it done early. But yeah, you mentioned good morning. Yeah, I just rolled out of bed. Sorry for the delay. Been sick all week, and yeah, we're here now, and happy to be here.
Well, the best way for NOTO's health to come back to make him feel better is to hit that thumbs up button, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to always know when we go live. Let's hit this NFL Week 4 slate to start with. It's the NFL. I mean, it's the new version of the NFL where the offenses can't do anything. We have the Dolphins and Bills at 53.5 total, and then like the next highest total is nearly a touchdown lower. The Chargers-Raiders game. Then of all the games, the Broncos-Bears game is the third highest total on the slate. The two teams, I guess they have bad defenses as well as bad offenses, and it just comes down to who's going to prevail. And then we have a whole bunch of middling type of scores. I mean, are we mostly targeting like the Dolphins-Bills game? But we'll also go into some injury news that, from a stack perspective, I looking at current projections now, I get the sense that although the Dolphins-Bills have the highest total, like from a mean perspective, not a lot of the players in the game, especially if Waddle plays, have a superstar level type of like outsized projection. I get the sense that more people will be playing the Raiders-Chargers game, even if Garoppolo doesn't go.
Yeah, I think that's right. I saw Adam Levitan had a tweet yesterday, like 93% of the plays for the Raiders have come between Josh Jacobs, Jacoby Myers, and Devontae Adams when they've been on the field together. So that's a very concentrated offense. We know the Chargers have a very concentrated offense, and that's really what we're looking for when it comes to DFS. And it's a lot cheaper to play that game too. So I think you're right with that.
Well, I mean, the main thing about the Chargers is that Mike Williams, he's out for the season, torn ACL. Keenan Allen is he's much more expensive on FanDuel, but he's 7,900 on DraftKings. Josh Palmer is 4,000, right? I mean, obviously, Mike Williams being out means that kind of everyone else gets elevated. We don't know if Eckler's going to play. If Eckler's out also, I mean, you go back to the well with Josh Kelly and see what happens. But Eckler also demands targets as well. So if Eckler's out, all these wide receivers typically get a higher target share. And then, as you mentioned on the Raiders, do you think that although the offense is concentrated between Jacobs, Adams, and Myers, the efficiency with Bobby Hoyer under center, do you think it's going to dramatically affect how well that offense runs, regardless if all these guys have very big shares of the offense?
Yeah, we'll have to see. I do think, the Chargers are going to be a good spot for value. Josh Kelly just letting us down 2 weeks in a row as the chalk running back. And he hasn't been very involved in the passing game. That's kind of the role that we want to see him play with Eckler out, as, getting a lot of dump offs like what Eckler usually does. But that hasn't been the case. We could see Quentin Johnson get a little bit more run for the Chargers as well. I think he's really cheap. He's 3,700 on DraftKings. And then, for the Raiders, I mean, just the usual guys. We'll just have to see. About Garoppolo. Is he looking like he's going to be out?
On Twitter this morning, I saw they're optimistic.
Okay.
But if we take a look at just long-term trends, I believe someone even pointed this out that, like, over the past year or so, which includes this season and last season, no one that has entered the concussion protocol 1 week has played the following week.
Okay. Yeah, and
So,
he got rolled up on pretty good too, so he's probably dealing with a couple things there.
but we could look at to highlight the point. If we look at this Miami Buffalo game, and our projections have Waddle in. Okay, so Tyreek 9,200, Waddle 7,600, Mostert 6,500. Obviously, Achan, they raised his price. Right, we're probably not going to have Salvin Ahmed in the backfield, so it's going to be a two-headed running back monster. Durham Smythe didn't end up running play as many snaps as, I mean, he did. Obviously, last week's game, like that second half, I mean, half the time the backups were in, right? So I don't know how much we could take out of, them scoring 70. But these prices, like Diggs is 81, right? We have Gabe Davis never projects well from a mean perspective at 5,900. I think more people are going to be playing like Jalen Hurts possibly at quarterback. Maybe, I mean, in cash games, probably more often than Allen or Tua. Like, from a mean perspective, even though this is the highest total game on the slate, if I told you, Noto, that this game was going to be as owned as the Chargers Raiders game, do you still target it because it's like clearly like almost a touchdown higher than any other game on the slate, and its ceiling is, I think it. I mean, rightfully so. Its ceiling is much higher than the other game.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I think I would probably rather have the other game if we are going to see similar ownership. I was just playing around. If you put Allen, Diggs, and Tyreek as a little stack there, you got 4,000 left for the rest of you guys on your team. So, yeah, you're going to have to really find some value if you do want to stack that game. Interesting to see how the running back situation in Miami goes with A-Chain and Mostert. It was closer to a 50-50 split, but we don't really want to target those situations. And, Buffalo is a much tougher matchup than Denver. So, yeah, I'm kind of with you. I don't love the game from a stacking perspective, but I do want to get some pieces for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned how expensive it is. I think I'm much more likely, if I do stack this game, to head it with Josh Allen because he does have that rushing upside, and then don't bother pairing him with Diggs. Play Tyreek on the, like, if Waddle is out, play Tyreek as the expensive guy, and then pair Allen with like Gabe Davis, Dalton Kincaid, or even just like Knox or Kincaid, and that offense could spread around. I mean, he dumps off passes to James Cook for a touchdown. He has, the Shakir gets Deontay Hardy gets a touchdown. It's just Tua, like the way that he gets 30 plus points, he's probably carrying multiple pass catchers with him. And then once you start adding these players in, I mean, you're going like double tight end, lowest DST, and some $4,800 running back in order to fit all that in.
Yeah, I tried the double tight end on Monday night, two gamer. It didn't work out. I don't love that approach very often. I wish James Cook was getting a little bit more work in the red zone. He's on pace for 2,100 yards from scrimmage and 0 touchdowns. I mean, they take him out every time. He goes the whole length of the field, does all the damage, and then they take him out at the 5-yard line every week. It's frustrating, but yeah, if he's got to break a long one if he's going to find the end zone.
Okay, so let's go down some positions and what should we be looking for coming into this week. Obviously, Eckler, we have in the projections. If Eckler's out, Josh Kelly, 5,300. Do we do it to ourselves? Do we try to do it to ourselves again? They have a 26.5 implied total at home against pretty subpar Raiders defense. I think the knock on Kelly is that even with Eckler out, he really doesn't get much of the receiving work. So he's kind of reliant on touchdowns. I'm going to expect, because I know how NFL DFS players are, that Kelly, after busting at high ownership, is actually going to be lower owned than he should. Are you willing to go back to the well here? Especially if the passing game for the Chargers is actually going to be the chalk.
I don't know. Burn me once, I'll go back. Burn me twice. Man, I'm still reeling after last week. He only ran a route on 24 of 47 dropbacks. So to your point, he hasn't been as involved in the passing game as we'd like to see. But yeah, I mean the matchup's good, the price is good, the workload theoretically should be good. Somehow the Chargers just find a way to be down in games, and then he's not as involved. But in theory, they're favorites. They're at home. It's a good matchup, good price. So I would probably get burnt for the third straight time.
Another situation to look at. I mean, we had Jerome Ford, who was 15% owned in GPPs last week. Kareem Hunt was signed. He did play, but maybe not as much as people expected. We saw in the beginning of that game, like they must have game planned because the Tennessee Titans rushing defense, right? People were shying away from Ford. Ford was much more active, as a back, lining up as a wide receiver. They didn't in the beginning really didn't run the ball much. How much now that they're facing Baltimore, which is a little bit better matchup, he's still only 5,400. He just got bumped up 600. I mean, it's not the best game environment, but do you think that Kareem Hunt eats more into his workload, being that he's a rookie and they didn't seem to really trust him to carry the ball 18 to 22 times? What are your thoughts in this range? Because you could kind of say the same thing with guys like Moss and Kyron Williams. Like the Colts and the Rams have not like signed anyone else. Akers is gone and Deion Jackson is gone. Their workloads are, I mean, if they're going to remain at like almost 100%, I mean, these guys are also underpriced. But Moss probably has Richardson back, which may ding him a little bit. What are your thoughts on these three guys? Because to me, in cash games, I mean, it's hard for me to not play Kyron Williams when he's playing every snap at 6,000.
Yeah, I think he'd probably be my favorite of the three. He's been really good the last 2 weeks, and now Cam Akers obviously gone. I think Moss has had like 95% of the running back touches the last 2 weeks as well. But to your point, if Richardson's back, maybe that dings him a little bit. And then who was the third running back?
Zach Moss. Or Zach Moss, Kyron Williams, and Jerome Ford.
Oh, yeah, Jerome Ford. So, I mean, they said Kareem Hunt was going to be on a snap count before last week's game, so maybe he gets a little bit more work. But at the same time, they called Jerome Ford their feature back, and last week's matchup was just such a pass funnel against the Titans. We've seen 3 weeks and 3 teams struggle against the Titans running the ball. So I think all three are pretty solid options, and maybe it's one of those weeks where you can just hit the mid range and not worry too much about the expensive running backs. And maybe it'll help with your stacks if you're trying to get the Josh Allen, Diggs, and Tyreek Hill.
Currently, our Wednesday projections, which obviously will change, right? We don't have ownership really up. I mean, some of this is just bad data from the showdown slates. So if you want to keep up with the projections here, use Lineup HQ. Become a RotoGrinder Premium member. Join our Discord. Get access to my premium channel. Click on that link in the description. Get $10 off your first month and join us. Our top projected running back from a salary adjusted value standpoint, Miles Sanders. We've learned with the Eagles that Miles Sanders chalk never works, right? We've learned that. We've accustomed to that. With Andy Dalton behind center versus Bryce Young, I feel like I'm a little bit more comfortable with Miles Sanders, being that, he's kind of catching like 4 to 6 balls out of the backfield. The Vikings defense, there's nothing to write home about. They have a 21 implied total, which for the context of this slate is not like horrible. Are you comfortable playing Miles Sanders into higher ownership?
I think so, just for the reason that you mentioned. His involvement in the passing game with Andy Dalton was really good last week. He had 9 targets, caught 5 of them, and it's a great matchup against Minnesota. I know Josh Kelly couldn't get anything done against Minnesota last week, but I think it's a sneaky spot for Carolina. From a betting perspective, I would kind of be interested in taking them on the money line, but yeah, I think it's a good spot for him. And the more we talk about running backs, there's just a lot of options in that range. So it doesn't seem like anybody's going to be too high owned unless there's, some big injury or something.
One person that people like to make happen who replaced Miles Sanders on the Eagles is DeAndre Swift. Kenny Gainwell's back, but from their last game on Monday night, seemed like Swift seems to be the feature back now. Do you think that will continue? They're facing the Commanders at home. We're probably going to get Jalen Hurts at fairly decent ownership. Do you think people expect Swift to have as much work as he did? Also, be as efficient as he was. I think he had like almost 100 yards on like 13 carries or something. I'm not a big fan of playing the Commanders defense from a defensive perspective, but the Washington Commanders offense with Sam Howell is pretty bad that there may be a lot of short fields. Obviously, Swift's upside is massive because not only can he run the ball, he can catch balls out of the backfield, even though they're not really featuring him that much in that capacity. He's one of these guys in this range that recency bias would say that people are going to click on. Are you willing to play DeAndre Swift compared to Miles Sanders into higher ownership?
Yeah, I haven't looked at the underlying usage from the Monday night game yet, but you mentioned he hadn't had another big game. Seems like he's clearly the RB1 ahead of Kenneth Gainwell. Just looking at the matchup now, Washington 15th in DVOA against the run, 15th in rush EPA, 20th in running back points allowed. So I think it's a decent matchup. Should be a good game script. Should be a lot of short fields for the Eagles. So another one of these guys. It's going to be tough deciding between.
I got two more for you.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Two more for you. These are the two people that people don't like clicking on.
Oh, okay. You've already mentioned a few that I don't like clicking on.
Right. Well, now I got two more that people don't like clicking on that are going to project well. Okay. One may have Bobby Hoyer at quarterback, has not done very well. We saw this last season with Josh Jacobs. The first couple of weeks, right? 3 weeks. It's like Josh Jacobs is dust. He's worthless. And then he rattled off like 6 30-point games in a row. And then you also have Rachaad White in a pretty bad game environment against the Saints. But at 5,600, I mean, they've not, like, Sean Tucker is nothing. Like, Rachaad White has been playing like 80+% of the snaps. And with Mayfield at quarterback, he's getting dump offs a lot more. And they're going to be facing a Saints team that's going to have Jameis Winston at quarterback, right?
Yeah.
What do we know about Jameis Winston? It's like either this game could be 70 points, right? He could put up 450 yards, or he could throw 4 interceptions. I'm not sure if the Saints are going to allow him to just air the ball out like he used to on the Buccaneers. It is a revenge game to some extent. Rachaad White at 5,600 just feels like give me 15 points, and he's probably going to get that. Maybe he doesn't get a touchdown. Maybe his upside maybe a little bit limited. And then Josh Jacobs seems like dude, people that are stacking this game are totally going to be stacking this with Devontae Adams. And it just, to me, 7,100 Josh Jacobs when Pollard is only 700 more than that. I get the sense that people don't like clicking on that guy's name, that the projections will tell you to, and he ends up coming in at like single-digit owner, like 8-9% ownership. Are you willing to? How about these two? The two people that you never feel comfortable clicking on, Jacobs and White.
Most weeks I'd feel pretty good about White, but there's so many guys in that range. I probably don't think we need to go there. They have an implied total of 18, which is the second lowest on the main slate. The Saints have historically been really good against the run, really good against running backs. So I probably will have more interest in Jacobs, but that said, I probably won't have much. He's burned me a lot in the past, and I just always worry about the Raiders just getting blown out. I don't know. They're one of those teams that I never get right, and so I try to stay away rather than picking a side.
Would you rather play Jacobs if Garoppolo plays or if Hoyer plays?
Well, he's been really bad with Garoppolo under center, so maybe Hoyer. I don't know.
Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position now. Okay. Obviously, we talked about Josh Palmer at 4,000. He's going to be kind of the value play du jour on the slate for the most part. We have Tank Dell at 4,600 now. His price came up 1,000. We see that he's getting, as you know, a fairly decent target share I mean, his 145-yard performance last week was kind of buoyed on one big play, but still at 4,600, if he could, I mean, even a 4 for 50 type of day with one touchdown is doable. I'm assuming Tank Dell is going to be a popular play, in being that he's done well the past weeks. Now the Steelers defense is not typically a team that I try to target players against, but they're letting CJ Stroud throw the ball as much as he wants. I mean, we also have Nico Collins at like 5,100 or something like that. I mean, I'm never a big fan of taking teams that have under 20 implied totals, very similar to your Buccaneers take with Rashad White. Are you willing to play Tank Dell into higher ownership?
I think I would rather play Nico if he's going to be lower owned. The two have, pretty similar target shares. Nico's got a little bit more air yard share. But, man, matchup against the Steelers, really tough. They got one of the best pass rushes in the NFL. So this could be a spot where, Stroud's running around, makes a lot of plays with his legs. But to your point, I just don't think that's going to be a higher scoring game. So I'd probably just use them as one-offs. And I don't really love anybody bringing it back on the Steelers side.
Okay, we got the Rams receivers. We saw that Puka Nacua finally came down to reality. They still use him. If you watch the game, they're still using him as if he's Cooper Kupp. Essentially, he's running those same routes. I'm assuming the defenses are kind of catching up to that now. That that you got to cover him in the same way. Of course, the Rams are notoriously, Cooper Kupp's always open, right? I mean, like it's like they just design plays that way. But we saw a bigger target share for Tutu Atwell. They're going to be in the dome, right, in Indianapolis. The Raiders, the Rams, decent implied team total for this slate, 22.5. I don't know about you, but I'm not all that thrilled about playing Atwell at 5,500 into higher ownership. Although, very similar to Tank Dell, like Atwell, dude, he has the ceiling to, I mean, I wouldn't say he has the Tyreek ceiling, but I mean, he's the type of player that could take a 17-yard pass and turn it into an 80-yard touchdown. So I can't completely dismiss his upside. Are you willing more or less to play Atwell into higher ownership?
Yeah, I think so. I think you play both of them, Atwell and Puka Nacua. This is such a volume offense, and Stafford wants to get the ball out fast, and it's going to lead to a lot of catches for both of them. Historically, the Colts, one of those teams where you can just burn them over the middle of the field. So I do think it's a really good spot for Puka Nacua. And I like Kyren Williams a lot. I think it's a good offense to target, just another one of those very concentrated offense that is very predictable, and we like to see that in DFS.
At the high end of wide receiver, it makes my head hurt. Okay. We have Justin Jefferson, 9,600, Tyreek Hill, 9,200, Stephon Diggs, 8,100. But our mean projections for salary adjusted value actually hover underneath that in the 7K to 8K range. Adams, Keenan Allen, Jamar Chase, AJ Brown. Now, this Keenan Allen projection here is with Eckler in our projections. The Tyreek projection here is with Waddle in. If Eckler's out, can someone make the case? I know we typically don't think of him as, the ceiling receiver, but Keenan Allen at 7,900 with like a 30+% target share and his catch rate against the Raiders. I mean, I must feel like you may only be able to play two of these. You may only be able to play one of any of the higher, depending if you play like Pollard or something in your running back slots. I think Jamar Chase is going to be popular. I don't know what's going to happen with Chase because his projection is going to look good, but Burrow can't seem to throw the ball more than 8 yards. Diggs is in the highest scoring game. Hill is in this highest scoring game. Is this kind of a weird week where Justin Jefferson is actually low owned?
Wow, that would be something. I'd love it if that was the case. Jefferson's
but you understand the point. Is like if you look at AJ Brown. I mean, AJ Brown is like a 34% target share or something. The Eagles Hurts is going to be popular, so I could see people pairing that with AJ Brown. I mean, like it just seems kind of weird that the first couple of weeks, Jefferson is like super, like he's the best receiver and he's like, the highest ceiling, highest floor ceiling combo receiver. But, they're going to Carolina, right? 24.5 total isn't like horrible, but if people target the Miami Buffalo game, they're playing Hill or Diggs. If they're targeting the Chargers Raiders game, they're playing Adams and Allen. If they're just going purely by, the Tennessee's rush defense and the Bengals have to throw the ball more, Chase is the best target, even if he's only getting 8-yard passes. A.J. Brown paired with Jalen Hurts, it's like Justin Jefferson at 9,600. Could he end up being like 8% owned just by process of elimination? Like, it just seems weird. Like, I'd love to play like Sanders on one side and then go back to the well and play that cousin stack with Jefferson.
Yeah, I like that a lot. We'll have to see what ownership looks like. Honestly, you can play all 7 of these guys. Look pretty interesting. I think we talked
play
about
all 7 of them. No, do you get extra salary? What did you text your VIP rep at DK? Do you get extra salary?
Yeah, he's nice to me. But yeah, to your point with Keenan Allen, I think we talked about it last week. His ADOT has gone up this year with Kellen Moore as offensive coordinator, so he's getting more looks downfield. And 18 catches in one game, the 3rd most in NFL history. I feel like people aren't talking about that as much as they should be. That was an awesome.
He had a passing touchdown. He also threw a touchdown.
And everybody's just like, oh, it's just Keenan Allen. So yeah, I love that spot for him. I think he should be more expensive, but I'll always play receivers against the Titans. So I think Chase and Keenan Allen are probably my favorite point per dollar options, but I don't feel good about fading any of these 7 really.
I think with people playing, having to fit in like Josh Palmer, Tank Dell, Tutu Atwell, kind of the lower end, Thielen right after his big game. Maybe this is the week where you just take a shot on some of these cheaper running backs, hope for the best, and try to jam in 3 of these guys. Right? Because, you take a look at this range, A.J. Brown, Chase, Allen, Adams, Diggs, Hill, Jefferson. I think there's a world where like 3 of them score 35+ points.
So if you go Allen, Chase, and Brown, you got 4,400 left per player.
Cheap defense, cheap quarterback, tight end, you punt, who cares?
I think you could do it.
You just have to play you have to play you got to play Rachaad White, right? You got to play Jerome Ford.
Yeah. Which there's a lot of guys in that range that we like.
Yeah, just mix and match.
Yep.
Okay, I would cover tight end, but tight end sucks. So, is there a point, right? Who's gonna be the cheap tight end du jour? Is it gonna be Ertz, Freiermuth, Schultz? Higbee's 4,200, so that's not that cheap. Okonkwo, Ferguson, Knox. No matter what it is, just close your eyes and hope for the. Is this like the worst the tight end position has ever been in the NFL?
We say that every year. It's just always bad.
Yeah, but the offenses are down also. So it used to be, I remember in like the Millie Maker, one of these guys, there'll be a couple of these guys that score 15, 18 points and be like, oh, probably in the Millie Maker winner lineup. Now we're getting to the point where you can probably win the Millie Maker with a 0 at tight end, as long as you get everything else right. Unless it's obviously one of the high price, if it's the Kelseys, the Hawkinsons, the Andrews, like the high price guys that, put up 25+. So I think tight end to me is I typically just, who's my quarterback? And then whatever team's tight end that is, and truthfully, it doesn't matter. If it's Hunter Henry, it's Hunter, who cares? Right?
Yep. Yeah, honestly, I wish they would bring back kicker. Get rid of defense or get rid of tight end. Give us some kickers, at least somewhat predictable.
Okay, so that's a little bit of an NFL preview. We'll be back Thursday, tomorrow. Tomorrow, showdown with Tim Buell. Kyle Murray will be on Friday for a strategic breakdown of the NFL Week 4 slate. That's when we have ownership and updated projections. But before we go, I wanted you to touch on the Ryder Cup because, I don't play PGA DFS regularly, but this is not like a normal format event. This is not like, the Ryder Cup is obviously, 2 teams from 2 different countries. There's some type, there's match play, there's group play. Can you go through just the basics of for people that have played PGA DFS before, but they normally pick 6 golfers and there's a cut and everything. How does this work on DraftKings this week?
Yeah, so just a basic overview of the Ryder Cup. There's 12 golfers on each team, and there's going to be 5 different sessions. So the first session is going to have 4 teams of 2 squaring off against each other. It's going to be foursomes. That's going to be Friday morning, and then in the afternoon it'll be another 4 set of 2, which will be the 4 ball, and then the same thing on Friday, and then the same thing on Saturday, and then Sunday all 12 of the singles will play against each other. So technically, only 16 of the 24 golfers will play on the first matches, and then second matches, third matches, fourth matches. So there's going to be 8 golfers that sit out each of the first 4 sessions. So that really makes it tough because we're not going to know.
Do we know who they are, or we won't even know?
We're only going to know the very first matches. They'll announce those today, so we'll know the 16 that are playing in the Friday morning session. Other than that, we're not going to know, but we basically know some of the pairings that are going to be playing together throughout the course of the event. So Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, they always play together. Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele always play together. And then it kind of looks like Scheffler is going to be playing with Brooks Koepka rather than Sam Burns. Everyone thought Sam Burns was going to be his partner. So just be on the lookout for that. A couple pieces of advice that I would give: don't play anyone in single entry or cash games that's not playing in that first session, just because you're automatically giving yourself an out. You're going to be, way behind. The whole goal of this tournament is to maximize the amount of matches that your golfers are going to have. So if they're not playing that first match, I would not play them, because they technically only have to play 1 match. Every golfer only has to play 1 match, and they can play all the way up to 5. So some of the guys on the European tour or on the European team will probably play all 5 matches. Rory McIlroy, Victor Hovland, John Rahm, everyone's kind of saying they're going to play all 5 of the matches. And then the second piece of advice I would give is to make rules in Lineup HQ. You can set up groups where you have a conditional player, and you put it with their pairing. So I do conditional groups with Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas. So anytime I build a lineup that features one of them, it comes with the other one. And I'm doing that because I think they're going to play together in all of the matches. And so that's really the only correlation that we can build into our lineups this week. So I would do that with Spieth and Thomas, and I also do that with Cantlay and Schauffele.
And we're not sure what the other, like, you're not going to be able to put in groups because you're not sure what the pairings are going to be.
So we'll know the first pairings, but we're not sure. So we know those 4 are going to be playing together throughout the course of the event, but the captains can always switch up the groups. So like if we have Scheffler and Koepka going out in the morning, that doesn't necessarily mean they'll go out again together. They might be paired with different people in the afternoon or the next day. What
would the benefit be to playing the golfers that aren't in the first 16?
The only thing I could think of is ownership. They'll be a lot lower owned, but they are automatically going to be, behind the 8 ball because they're not playing the first match. And if your captain's not putting you out in that first, 8 of the 12 on your team, then he probably doesn't think that much of you, and you're probably only going to see 2, maybe 3 matches at most. So
okay, so it's not going to be. It's good. You would think it's rare that it's the type of thing where a golfer doesn't play the first match but then plays the next 4.
Yeah, he would have to, get with the partner, and they would have to just crush, and then the captain would have to be, okay, let's send these guys out again the next morning, and then they'd have to win again, and then so they'd have to really catch fire for them to play the next 4 matches.
Is there any way that a golfer that only plays 2 matches could outscore a golfer that plays 3 or 4? Like, what happens if they just go out and shoot a 59 with 2 holes in 1? I mean, is that like the only scenario? Is there any reasonable scenario that, let's say, one of the golfers plays 3 matches, but some play 4 and some play 5? That, compared to ownership, if you told me that, like, one of these, golfers that don't play the first match is like under 1% owned in a field of, like, there aren't that many choices. Like, what is the path to them getting? So, I mean, what happens with the other golfers, plus 5 or something? Like, is it only in those very, very outlier scenarios that could happen?
Yeah, they'd have to go undefeated, and you'd have to have the guys playing more matches, lose some matches. And even if they get a hole in one, there's no hole in one points. It's just
Oh,
holes.
okay. So it's not standard PGA scoring.
It's different
PGA view.
scoring, so it's holes won and holes lost. So the first four, are team. So both golfers will get credit for a hole won or a hole loss, and then there's streaks for 3 holes won in a row.
Okay,
And
so you
then
don't get like if they win a hole by getting a bogey and the other team gets a double bogey.
it's just
Doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's an eagle versus a birdie. Like you're getting the
Right.
same points. So okay, so we don't even. So it doesn't matter. Someone could go out and shoot like the round of a lifetime. It just means that okay, then they just won every hole. They don't
Yeah.
get any extra bonus points for that.
Yeah, you get streaks. So if you win 3 holes in a row, you get a streak, and then you get bonus points if you close out the match early. So if you're up by like 6 with 4 holes to go, there's no way for the other guys to catch up. So they just end the match, and then you get bonus points for that. But yeah, there's not as many scoring points as your typical PGA event.
Is this the first time they've ever done the Ryder Cup as a DFS contest?
They did the President's Cup last year, and I believe they did the Ryder Cup 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I guess, because they didn't do it in 2021. But
Can we look back at that slate and see and analyze that contest?
yeah, I mean you can. I haven't myself, but yeah, you certainly can.
You have an article up for premium members. It's premium only. Click on that link in the description. Get $10 off your first month. Get a combo premium package, right? You get NFL, NBA, MLB, right? Even for the playoffs. We have MLB playoff projections. NBA is coming back, right? Noto, are you excited about NBA coming back?
No. I mean, I'm excited to watch it and to play, but man, it's always overwhelming at the start of a new season for content.
But you and Cards have this DFS picks and strategy for the Ryder Cup and other premium content. So if you're going to play PGA DFS this week and watch the Ryder Cup, it's always entertaining. Feel free to do that behind the paywall. Noto, you'll also have your key personnel for NFL DFS, and I get the sense it's not going to include Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, we'll have to see. A lot would have to go differently in the next few days for that to be included in there. But yeah, the first look is free for everyone if you guys want to check that out. We have DVOA in there now. Everyone was asking about DVOA the first few weeks. Finally got that in there. Then Tournament Take Show with Bobby and Kirk on Friday night and all the other fun stuff.
And you can follow Noto on Twitter, RG_notorious. You can follow me on Twitter at BlenderHD. Hit that thumbs up button. Give me the likes. I think Noto, are you feeling better? Did we get enough likes that you've woken up in the morning? You
need a few more.
Need a few more. You need a booster shot of likes. So hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. We got Grinders Live later today, 5 o'clock Eastern for the MLB slate. That's followed by Crunch Time at 6:20. We got the Swolecast, 1:30 in the afternoon. We got Will's NFL Prize Picks video coming out. We had tons of content here on the YouTube channel, as well as on the website. So sign up there. Check out the free content. Join Combo Premium. Join us in the Discord, rotogrinders.com/Discord. Go see me in there. You can ask me anything you want in there. Send in your questions to the mailbag, questions@theoryofdfs.com, because I answer them, right? That's what we do here. I go through what you're thinking about in the world of DFS, props, and pick'em on RotoGrinders Today.